You may have had a small handful of nuts today thinking you made a healthy choice. For most people, that is true. But after 60, the type of nut, the portion size, and what has been added to it can matter more than you might expect, especially when kidney health is part of the picture. Not all nuts are kidney friendly. Some quietly raise phosphorus. Some push potassium higher than aging kidneys can easily manage. And two of the most popular ones you very likely have in your kitchen right now, are the ones worth looking at most carefully. 4 nuts can actually be smart, practical choices for kidney health after 60. 2 popular ones can quietly make things harder on your kidneys when portion size, salt content, and label ingredients start adding up. We'll go through all 6 today, and I'll tell you the one that surprises most people, because it does not look like a problem at all. Most people consider it one of the healthiest things they eat. Stay with me, because that one matters. My name is Grace Wells. I'm a kidney and diabetes health educator for older adults. Let's get into it. After 60, your kidneys naturally begin to lose some of their filtering efficiency. That is not meant to frighten you. It is simply biology. It happens gradually and quietly. No dramatic symptoms, no warning alarm. But in practical terms, your kidneys are working with a smaller reserve than they once had. They are still filtering your blood, managing phosphorus, regulating potassium, balancing fluids, just with less margin for daily overload. When you were 40, an extra handful of salted nuts was not a crisis. After 60, especially if you have been told you have early CKD, diabetes, or high blood pressure, your kidneys need you to be a little more intentional. That does not mean fear every bite. It means knowing which choices work with your kidneys and which ones quietly work against them over time. Before we name the nuts, 2 minerals you need to understand. They are exactly why some nuts end up on the Kidney Smart list and others do not. The first is phosphorus. Your kidneys filter excess phosphorus out of your blood. When kidney function declines, even gradually, phosphorus can begin to accumulate. Over time, elevated phosphorus can affect bone density and put strain on the heart. Many nuts are surprisingly high in phosphorus, especially when roasted, salted, or processed. The second is potassium. Potassium is essential, but when your kidneys cannot filter it as efficiently as they once could, potassium can build up in the blood. Elevated potassium, what doctors call hyperkalemia, is something that needs attention, and certain nuts contribute more to that load than most people realize. Important to hold on to, not every senior needs to severely restrict these minerals. It depends entirely on your current lab values, your kidney function, your medications, and what your doctor has told you. So hear everything in this video as educational context, not a prescription. If your doctor has already told you to watch potassium or phosphorus, this video matters a great deal for you. If you are not yet at that stage, this still gives you a smarter lens for reading a label. All right, let's get to the nuts. The first, and the one that consistently surprises people most, is macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are not the most common snack, but among renal dietitians, they come up consistently as one of the most kidney-friendly options for seniors. Here is why. Compared to most other nuts, macadamia nuts are considerably lower in potassium and phosphorus. 1 ounce, roughly a small closed handful, contains around 100 milligrams of potassium and approximately 53 milligrams of phosphorus. Some of the most popular nuts contain 2 to 3 times that phosphorus in the same portion. Macadamia nuts are also high in monounsaturated fats, the same type found in olive oil. Research suggests these fats may support heart health, and heart health and kidney health are closely connected in older adults. The two essentially share the same circulatory workload. The catch, as with every nut on this list, is that they must be unsalted. Look for raw or dry roasted unsalted versions and check the ingredient label for any added sodium before you put them in your cart. The second kidney-friendly nut is pecans. Pecans are lower in potassium than many commonly eaten nuts, and their phosphorus content is more moderate compared to cashews, almonds, or peanuts. 1 ounce of unsalted pecans, roughly 18 to 20 halves, contains around 115 milligrams of potassium and approximately 78 milligrams of phosphorus. Considerably more manageable for most seniors watching those lab numbers. Pecans also provide natural dietary fiber, which can help with blood sugar balance. And that matters because diabetes and kidney health are deeply connected after 60. When blood sugar stays poorly controlled over time, it strains the small blood vessels inside the kidneys. Anything that supports steadier blood sugar tends to benefit kidney function over the long run. The key word again, unsalted. Honey roasted, cinnamon sugar, candied. Those versions add sodium, sugar, and sometimes phosphate additives that change the picture entirely. Plain, unsalted pecans in a controlled portion. That is the version worth keeping on your radar. The third is walnuts. And this one often prompts a question because walnuts are not the lowest in potassium on this list. 1 ounce contains around 125 milligrams of potassium. Manageable for many seniors, but worth knowing if your doctor has specifically asked you to keep potassium low. What makes walnuts worth including is the omega-3 fatty acids. Walnuts are one of the strongest plant-based sources of omega-3 fats, which have been studied in the context of reducing chronic inflammation. That matters directly for kidney health because chronic low-grade inflammation is associated with faster decline in kidney function over time. For seniors managing blood pressure and inflammation alongside kidney health, a small serving of unsalted walnuts a few times per week can be a reasonable and beneficial part of eating well. Same rule, unsalted. Portion aware. Not from a heavily processed trail mix where you cannot tell what else is in the bag. The fourth is the one most people completely overlook, and this next part matters more than most people expect. Chestnuts. Chestnuts are genuinely different from almost every other nut. They are much lower in fat and calories, which is unusual on its own, but more importantly for kidney health, they are significantly lower in both phosphorus and potassium compared to almost all commonly eaten nuts. 1 ounce of chestnuts contains approximately 65 milligrams of potassium and around 30 milligrams of phosphorus. Compare that to cashews, almonds, or peanuts, and you will understand why renal dietitians sometimes mention chestnuts as one of the gentler choices for seniors actively watching those minerals. Chestnuts do have a higher carbohydrate content than other nuts, so if you are managing blood sugar alongside kidney health, factor that into your bigger picture. But for seniors whose primary concern is phosphorus or potassium load, chestnuts are genuinely worth knowing about. They are available fresh in the fall, canned in water, or pre-packaged roasted. As always, check for added sodium in packaged versions. If this is the first time you have heard chestnuts mentioned in the context of kidney health, that is exactly why I make these videos. And if something here has already been useful to you, a quick like on this video tells me it is reaching the people who actually need it. Now, here is the part most people do not see coming. The natural assumption is that the two nuts to avoid must be something obscure, something you would never eat anyway. They are not. They are two of the most commonly eaten nuts in households across America, Canada, the UK, and Australia. And the concern is not that they are toxic, it is that they are very easy to overeat, almost always sold with heavy sodium and frequently contain phosphate additives that change the absorption picture entirely. The first is peanuts. Technically, peanuts are a legume, not a tree nut, but most people eat them as a snack or in peanut butter, and they are so common in the daily lives of older adults that they belong in this conversation. Peanuts feel healthy, protein, filling, affordable. A lot of seniors grew up eating peanut butter as a staple, and the idea that it is worth looking at more carefully can feel counterintuitive. Here is what changes the picture. 1 ounce of roasted peanuts contains approximately 180 to 200 milligrams of potassium and around 105 milligrams of phosphorus. But peanuts are among the easiest foods to overeat. You start with a small amount, then another. Portion control with salted peanuts tends to slip. Peanut butter compounds this considerably. A standard 2 tablespoon serving of commercial peanut butter contains around 180 milligrams of phosphorus and close to 200 milligrams of potassium. But commercial peanut butter also frequently contains added salt, added sugar, and sometimes phosphate-based preservatives. Those additives matter specifically. The phosphorus from synthetic phosphate additives is absorbed by the body at a meaningfully higher rate than naturally occurring phosphorus. It moves into your bloodstream faster and in greater amounts. If your doctor has mentioned watching your phosphorus or potassium, peanut butter is worth raising directly at your next appointment. Not automatically off limits for every senior, but the version you buy, the serving size, and what is in the ingredient list all matter more than the front label suggests. This does not mean panic, it means pay attention to how much and what kind. The second popular nut worth being careful about is cashews. Cashews are everywhere. Trail mixes, snack bags at the pharmacy, mixed nuts at the grocery store. They have a mild flavor, a satisfying texture, and they genuinely feel like a smart choice. Many seniors eat them regularly without a second thought. But cashews are consistently among the higher potassium options in the nut world. 1 ounce contains approximately 155 to 165 milligrams of potassium. Because cashews are easy to eat quickly, especially when salted, the potassium load can accumulate faster than you realize across the day. Cashews are also on the higher end for phosphorus, sitting around 165 milligrams per ounce, and almost all cashews sold commercially are roasted and salted, often heavily. Here is why the sodium piece matters specifically. High sodium increases the workload your kidneys carry to maintain fluid and mineral balance. After 60, that extra daily workload adds up in ways that are not always visible until a lab result comes back changed. For someone eating salted cashews from a can as a regular afternoon snack, not realizing that potassium, phosphorus, and sodium are accumulating together, this can be a meaningful piece of information. Can some seniors eat a small amount of unsalted cashews without significant concern? Depending on their labs and kidney function, possibly. But if cashews are a daily habit, eaten in generous amounts from a salted container, that habit is worth reconsidering. Here is something that applies to every nut on this list, even the 4 kidney-friendly ones. The front of the package tells you almost nothing useful. Natural. Heart healthy. Good source of protein. These are marketing phrases. The actual picture, especially for a senior paying attention to kidney health, is always on the back label. 3 things worth checking every time you buy a packaged nut product. First, sodium content. Even nuts marketed as lightly salted can contain 100 to 150 milligrams per serving, and the defined serving size is often smaller than what most people actually eat. Second, phosphate additives in the ingredient list. Look for anything ending in phosphate, disodium phosphate, sodium phosphate, calcium phosphate. These appear in flavored nuts and processed nut butters. The phosphorus from these additives is absorbed at a higher rate than natural phosphorus. Third, serving size itself. 1 ounce of cashews is roughly 18 cashews. 1 ounce of macadamia nuts is 10 to 12 nuts. Eat double the serving and you have doubled the potassium, phosphorus, and sodium along with it. Reading the back label takes 20 seconds. But those 20 seconds give you real information instead of packaging marketing. It is a habit that costs nothing to start today. One more thing worth naming because it comes up often. When seniors hear a food is described as a better choice, the natural response is to start eating it more freely, more often in larger amounts, assuming that because it is better than something else, more must be fine. That is where things tend to go quietly wrong. Even macadamia nuts, pecans, walnuts, and chestnuts contain natural phosphorus and potassium. They are calorie-dense, a small closed handful a few times per week as part of a balanced eating pattern. That is the framework that makes sense for most seniors. The goal is not to swap peanuts for macadamia nuts and then eat macadamia nuts from a cereal bowl every afternoon. The goal is smarter choices, appropriate portions, and less processing. Your kidneys respond to cumulative load across the entire day. 1 ounce of a lower risk nut is very different from 4 ounces of that same nut, and both are very different from a heavily salted, phosphate additive mixed blend. Your individual lab values matter more than any general recommendation in any video, including this one. If there is one practical step I hope you take from today, at your next doctor visit, ask specifically about your phosphorus and potassium levels. Ask whether your current kidney function is at a stage where monitoring those minerals matters for you. Many seniors discover they have been eating something regularly for years that was quietly showing up in a lab number they were already being asked to watch. Not because they were careless, but because no one sat down and explained it clearly in terms of real daily food choices. You deserve to walk into your next appointment knowing what to ask. Let's bring this together. 4 nuts that can be thoughtful, kidney-aware choices after 60. Macadamia nuts, notably lower in potassium and phosphorus than most other options. Pecans, moderate and fiber-rich. Walnuts, bringing anti-inflammatory omega-3s worth the trade-off for many seniors. And chestnuts, the most overlooked option on this list and among the gentlest choices for seniors actively managing phosphorus and potassium. 2 popular nuts to be careful about: peanuts and peanut butter, easy to overeat, higher in phosphorus, and often containing phosphate additives in commercial forms. And cashews, higher in potassium, almost universally sold with heavy sodium and easy to overconsume without realizing it. The rule connecting all of them: unsalted, portion aware, and always check the back label. Kidney health after 60 is not about perfect foods or a perfect list. It is about consistent, informed daily habits. The small label check. The handful instead of the bowlful. The question you bring to your doctor. Your kidneys have been doing their job for 6 decades or more. These small habits are how you support them now. Before you go, which nut on this list surprised you most? Was it chestnuts, which most people have never heard mentioned in a kidney conversation? Was it peanut butter with its long reputation as a healthy food? Or cashews, which many seniors eat daily without realizing what is quietly adding up? Leave your answer in the comments. Your experience may help another senior in this community realize something they had not thought about. If this kind of clear, grounded guidance on kidney health after 60 is what you have been looking for, practical, honest, and without talking down to you, then this channel is worth staying with. A quick note before we close. Everything in this video is educational information, not personal medical advice. Potassium, phosphorus, sodium, and protein needs vary depending on your kidney function, CKD stage, medications, blood pressure, and diabetes status. Please speak with your doctor or a registered renal dietitian before making significant dietary changes. Tomorrow, we move from snacks to the dinner plate and the habits seniors repeat every night that quietly affect kidney health. Some of them are going to surprise you. That video is next in this series, and it is worth watching. I'm Grace Wells. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you there.